Bonjour tout le monde, comment ça va? J'espère que vous allez bien. I hope you are all well. Well, welcome to French Action, and today we are to talk about something which is very interesting. It's the TAPIF program. TAPIF program for students whose mother tongue is English. So if you speak English, if your mother tongue is English, then this program is for you. Okay, so to really talk to you about this TAPIF program, I invited 3 people today. So the first one is the coordinator of this program in Jamaica, but it's not just in Jamaica. You can do it in Trinidad, Barbados, America, and so on. The second guest is somebody who went on the program in the French Caribbean. And the last guest is the one who did it right in mainland France, but this year during the pandemic. And I think that during the pandemic is very interesting to know how things are happening, especially for those who are leaving us this month. But before this, I just would like to convey a little message to you all. I would like to tell you that yesterday was the first birthday of French Action. And I'm very excited about that because I wasn't sure whether or not French Action was going to reach 1 year, but it did. And this is thanks to you and thanks to all the support I got. And I think I will just continue and see how it goes. But I wanted to really thank everybody who supported me during this year. So now back to our topic today. Bonjour tout le monde. Bonjour Nicolette. Okay, so TAPIF program, I'm not going to say anything about it because that's what the guest is going to do for me. All right, so now I'm going to ask Rona, who is the coordinator of the TAPIF program in Jamaica, to come. Rona, are you there? Yes, she is. Rona, we can't hear you because
My mic was muted. Bonjour
Yes.
tout le monde. Merci de m'avoir invité. Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Okay. So I don't know if I had told you, Rona. Rona can speak French fluently, of course, but today we're going to do it in English so
figured.
that everybody can understand what's going on today. All right?
Okay, that's fine.
So, Rona, thank you for accepting to be on this live on French Action. I'm very excited about that because it's the first time I have this live with several guests. So I'm very excited, but thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So you are responsible, yes, you are responsible for coordinating the TAPIF program in Jamaica.
In Jamaica, for Jamaicans and
Bahamas. And right, okay. Can you tell us what the TAPIF program is all about, please?
Okay, so the TAPIF program is really an opportunity for students of French, people who have studied French, not only majors, not only teachers, but Jamaicans and Bahamians who have studied French throughout their university career or outside. It could be at the Alliance Française, it could be in the case of Jamaica at Shortwood or at MICO, and who would like to improve or perfect their French, their spoken French especially, and to learn more about the French culture, to experience the French culture firsthand. And when I say the French culture, I mean not only mainland France, but also the departments, the overseas departments like Martinique and Guadeloupe as well.
Do you have anybody going to French Guiana?
We don't have anybody going to French Guiana this year, but we do
have
some students who are interested, some students who might be going next year. And we did have somebody recently who went to Martinique, and we have another student who is leaving well, at the end of this month, and she's also going to be in Martinique.
Okay, so what exactly would they do in those countries? I understand that you have a presentation. I don't know. Please let me know when you
Yes,
want
I
to.
have a presentation, and the presentation basically shows you what the requirements are and so on. But
Okay, so you may want to share this presentation because I don't want to ask you the
the
questions
questions?
and they are
Okay,
all
so you
in
can
your.
ask whatever hasn't been answered in the presentation, you can ask me after. Okay?
Yes. So while you're clicking on your presentation, I'm just going to say hello again to the audience who is with us now. If you have any questions, please ask them. It would be good if you could put a big Q so that I know it is a question. And of course, Rona is going to talk about Jamaica, but if you are from Barbados or Trinidad and Tobago, it works the same way. Okay? So it's just a matter of you finding the information in your country. But what is happening here in Jamaica is going to be the same elsewhere. Isn't that right, Rona?
That's correct. And if you like, at the end of the presentation, I could actually share my screen so that you could see the website for France Education International, and I'll show you exactly where to go, and you will see the countries that have representation. Barbados is one of them.
Mhm. But also, after the live, I could put it in the description of the video. Okay, so
Okay.
when all this information, you can share that with me, and I will put it in the description.
Right. And last year we had a student who is actually from Trinidad. She's Trinidadian, but she was
Okay.
studying French with us in Jamaica, and therefore she qualified to go with the Jamaican contingent.
Ah,
So
that is
that's important
interesting.
too. Yes.
Okay, all right. So you don't necessarily have to be in your own country then.
No, if you're enrolled in the university here in Jamaica, then you would be applicable. It would be applicable as well.
Okay. All right. So Rona, are you ready for your presentation?
I am ready. Are you seeing it?
Yes, I'm seeing it. Okay, so I'm just going to put just your presentation on the screen
Mm-hmm.
so that people can see better. Over to you, Rona.
Okay, thank you. So, the first slide, of course, is showing you assistant de langue. So, this is all about becoming a foreign language assistant in France, and we're talking about the group. If you apply this year in October, and applications will open somewhere in the middle of October, and um, you will be able to apply. Applications close usually in December, and then you would actually be going to France next year. So you'd be going to France for the period October 1, that's when your contract would start, 2022, and you would stay in France teaching English until the 30th of April 2023. Okay? So in this slide, you're seeing a Jamaican actually who was the assistant ambassador 2019 to 2020. His name is Richard Palmer. And each year, the France Education International selects ambassadors to represent the assistants. And in this particular year, a Jamaican was chosen to be the ambassador. So we have a recruitment campaign, as I mentioned before, which starts in October each year and usually ends in December. Okay? It usually opens around the 15th of October, as I mentioned. And the website for France Education International is displayed on the screen right now. So you can just put in France Education International and it will come up. And then you would go on their website. Normally, you would click on the section that says services. and it would take you to a section that says Venir en France. And on that page, you have two options. One option is study in France, and the other option is be an English language assistant in France, and that's what you would click on. And when you click on that, it would bring you to this section, and you would be able to look at what the whole mission of the being an assistant is. You would see figures about previous years, but the important part for you would be right here where you would be able to see your application. So you would go in here and then it would take you to what countries are eligible, and then it would take you to the requirements and so on. Also, for additional information, the website for France Education International is in several languages. So you can read it in French, but you can also read it in English. And it also has a link that will take you to further information on the Embassy of France in Kingston website. So you can go to their website and you'll get further information, and you'll also be able to see you'll also be able to download the application form. Okay, so the application form, back in a few years ago, the application um, process was a lot more tedious because you used to have to submit 3 copies of the application form. Now it's paperless, so we're not printing anything. So you usually have to submit only one single file, because there are several attachments that you're going to need, but page there are places on each page that would allow you to upload the file that is relevant to that particular page. So you wouldn't send to the coordinator 6 different files. It would be one file, one electronic file, which is the application form, and that application form would to that application form you would upload all the other documents. So they give you instructions on the website as to how to upload the document. So you have to use the latest version of Adobe Reader. It's better to use your computer, laptop, rather than a phone. Some people experience problems using the phone. So they also warn you not to complete the application form directly on the browser, but to download it to your computer um, before you start filling it out. So you download the file to your computer and you save it, and then you start answering all the questions. And the application form has different sections. And after you've completed the application form, there's one other task that you have to complete, which is to send the application form to a teacher who has taught you French and who would be able to attest to your proficiency in French, because you know that you have to have at least a B1 level in order to be eligible to apply. But you'll see, most people will know what the B1 level is, but we'll mention that a little later on in the presentation. So the application form, as I said, has 5 sections. One section that talks about your marital status and who you are and so on. It talks about your educational profile. You also have to upload a cover letter to say why you would like to take advantage of this opportunity, why you'd like to go to France to teach for 7 months. And then, of course, you have the various attachments that you need to substantiate what you have answered in your application. So first thing you have to do is to complete all sections of the file, and you have to make sure to sign the cover letter. Okay, so the cover letter has to be signed. Then you need to submit the fully completed file to the teacher who is going to attest to your level of French, and that person will also complete it, the fiche d'appréciation, and sign it. And all support documents should be submitted along with your application form. Usually, how the document is constructed, um, you need to sign all the different parts that you have filled out before, because once your teacher has signed the fiche appréciation, you will no longer be able to modify the content of your document. So you have to make sure that's done. Um, there is one thing that we have found though, that sometimes the teachers do not want to um, send the document back to you. They want to keep the fiche d'appréciation confidential. So sometimes we have had a situation where sometimes the teacher might want to send the that document to us, and then we will have to attach it to your document. So if that comes up, it's not too much of a problem. Okay, so normally your file, your completed file, should be sent to the person in charge by the 17th of December, but on the websites you will be advised of the deadline. So as we said, the support documents are very important, and they need to be uploaded along with your application. So the cover letter, which is in French, the copy of your passport, and the passport has to be valid up to December 2023. Remember, you're going to be coming back in around April, so you need to have your passport valid. So we have had some situations where people's passports were going to be expiring maybe in February or March of the year in which they're going to travel. So usually what you do is to upload the copy of your passport as it is, but also indicate that you are aware that your passport is going to be expiring, and that you're going to be taking the necessary steps to get a new passport. And as soon as you have your new passport, then you would send a photograph of the relevant page to us so that we can send that to France Education International. Then you also have to prove that you're registered at a relevant tertiary or private institution such as UWE, Shortwood, Michael, or the Alliance Française. And this used to be more important a few years ago, when the number of poste d'assistant was more limited. We started out with only 6, it went to 15, it went to 25, and now we have anywhere between 30, and we've had as many as 55. So it would all depend on the year. So now the fact that you are actually currently registered at an institution is not that important. So usually most of our applicants come from UE, Shortwood, or Michael, and most of them are just about to graduate at the time when they're applying. But the age limit, as you will see a little later on, is 35. So if you have graduated recently and you would just now like to travel to France, that is also possible. So, and I should mention here also that when the posts were limited, we used to put more emphasis on selecting people who were going to be teaching, because we felt that sending teachers would be reinvesting in getting French into our societies. But now, since we have more um, post assistant at our disposal, we have a broader framework of people who are going. And of course, if as a nation we are saying that a foreign language enhances you professionally, no matter what profession you're doing, then we have to follow through with our actions and allow people from different professions. So that we've had people who have specialized in mathematics, people who have specialized in forensic sciences, for example, who have gone, and some of them have actually stayed in France. They have gone on to study further. They've done their master's degree in France, and some of them are there now actually teaching English in French universities as lector or lectrice. So those are some possibilities as well. So you have to have, if you have graduated, you would have a certified copy of the most recent diploma, and if not, then you would have you submit a transcript if you're still a student and you haven't received your degree as yet. Okay, but if you have already graduated, of course, a copy of your degree um, would be submitted. And then you all there for those people who are married or have children, there's also a sheet that you have to fill out to say that you are free and you can travel without any reservations, that your spouse is in agreement and it won't cause any family problem. So there's that as well. So the recommendation letter we mentioned before, and then we just want to let you know that after that process, where you have filled out all those documents and you have submitted all the supporting documents, then you will be notified very early in January to say whether you've been shortlisted or not. And then you will be invited to attend an interview, which is usually held at the French Embassy during the month of January. And so you will be given the schedule and everything, and the interview will be conducted in both French and English. So remember, we need to know that you can go to France and you can survive. We need to know that you speak French well enough to be able to function in the society, to be able to speak with the teachers that you're going to come in contact with, and maybe your students as well. But we also need to know that you have a good level of English, because remember, you're going to France to teach English to French students. So therefore, we also have to see what your English is like. So the interview is going to be in both languages. And during the interview, you will be expected to introduce yourself, tell us all about yourself, explain why you want to go to France, explain what plans you have to engage your students in the classroom while you're in France. And then we also usually want to know a little bit about your career plans, what you plan to do when you get come back from France, if you plan to do further studies in France, and so on. Okay, so in order for you to apply, you have to be a national of the country that you're applying from, or you have to be enrolled in an institution in that country where from which you're making your application. As I mentioned before, we had a student from Trinidad last year. So you have to be native speakers of the language that is to be taught in France, in our case, English, and you have to have completed your secondary education, or you have to have and are enrolled in a higher education in the country. So you would have been a tertiary institution in Jamaica or the Bahamas, or no, you would have just completed. So you should be between 20 and 35 years old. We have found that when students go before the age of 20, very often some of them are still dependent on their parents, and they don't manage very well on their own in a foreign country. So the ages during which you would be eligible to go are between 20 and 35 years old. And we've had people who have gone right on the cusp of 35 and have really taken advantage of the experience. Okay, so we mentioned this, that you could be in a tertiary institution. You could also have attained your B1 level from the Alliance Française. Maybe you studied something completely different at the university, but afterwards you went to the Alliance Française and you are now at the B1 level. You would be eligible to apply. Okay, so you should have successfully completed studies equivalent to second year. In the past, there used to be some students, especially from the University of the West Indies, who used to leave, take a break at the end of their second year, go to France for a year, come back and complete their third year, and then graduate. And they found that having gone to France between their second and third year and improved the level of French that they had, when they came back, their marks were greatly improved. But the department has requested that we not do this anymore because be- because the numbers registered in French are a little bit on the low side. It depletes the class numbers when students from second year go, and what happens is that sometimes some of these students they go to France and they decide to stay for a year or two or three, and then their degree that they were working on in Jamaica or in the Bahamas is kind of hanging in the balance. So this is something that right now is advised against, and usually we only consider students who have completed their third year. Okay, so as I mentioned before, you have to have a B1 level of French, B1 on the Common European Framework of References for Languages, which means that, oh sorry, here it is, which means that students can understand the main points made in clear standard language. So you're supposed to be able to understand the main points that somebody in France might make in clear standard language, or you should be able to communicate about anything that could arise at work, at school, and during your regular leisure activities while you're in France. Okay, so you need to be at least able to survive in a French environment, be it in France, in French Guiana, in Martinique, in Guadeloupe. Okay, so once we have had our interviews and students have been shortlisted, then we from the coordinators would send your documents to France Education International, where they will be vetted, and then usually in about at the end of maybe March or in April. It's been taking a little bit longer during the COVID pandemic, but usually we hear back in about April who the students are that have been selected. And at that time, we also hear about students who were currently in France, assistants in France who applied for an extension of their contract. So then once we receive that, we inform everybody who is on that list, and you are asked to reply saying whether you will be taking up the offer or not. And once you have said you will be taking up the offer, unless something very serious happens, you are expected to follow through with that. So once you have been advised that you were accepted, your application has been accepted, then you have to apply for your long stay visa. But before you can apply for your visa, you have to receive your contract from France, which is usually sent from the academy that you have been named to. So you would wait for that document, the arrêté de nomination, as it is called, and then you will apply. For Jamaicans, you're going to apply at the VFS Global Office in Kingston, and the app website is there. So you apply online and you're given an appointment, and then when you're given an appointment, you're expected to go into their offices and take in all the necessary documents that you need, including your passport, of course. And for the Bahamian students, you will obtain your visas from the Embassy of France in Miami. So Bahamians have to go to Miami to obtain their visas. So one thing that's very important for you to know, so once you think about applying, you have to also start thinking about where this money is going to be coming from, because you are going to be paid for teaching English in France, but sometimes all the paperwork is not completed until maybe 2 months after you have arrived in France. So remember, you're going to start working in October, and it may not be until December that you might see your first salary, retroactive, of course. So you are asked to put together approximately 1,000 to 1,500 euros, and you're supposed to take this money with you when you go, and it's supposed to to help you to pay your rent if you need to rent a place. Some students are fortunate enough to be um, assigned to schools that have residence where you can live, so you don't actually have to worry about rent. But in some cases you have to find an apartment for yourself and you need to pay rent, so you have to make sure that you have this money that will tide you over for the 1 or 2 months. And when we talk about renting and so on, once you have received your arrêté de nomination, it will have on it the name of a professeur référent, a contact teacher that you can start communicating with. And that person is going to be very helpful to you, because very often they will in advance send you possibilities of places where you can rent or where you can stay for the first 2 weeks when you get there before you start actually looking for a place. So once you get that arrêté, you will be in direct contact with somebody that you're going to be interacting with during the period while you're in France. So it would be good for you to ask them as many questions as possible and get as much done before you actually arrive in France. Okay, so we're looking forward to hearing from you and receiving your applications. And remember that you should go to the France Education International website, and what will be posted there is the current email address that you should send your application to in Jamaica or for the Bahamas and for any other country as well. Okay, so we're very happy to have you interested in moving from your home country to another country to perfect your French and to learn more about the culture. And we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you very much. We can assure you from the experiences that other people have had and that you will hear about coming up now, that this time abroad is really a wonderful opportunity for you, not only for French, but for maturing, for learning about other things, for meeting people from all different nationalities. So we ask you to embrace it with open arms. And thank you very much for your attention.
Merci beaucoup, Rona. Thank you
Pas de
very
quoi.
much.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. That was wonderful. You basically covered everything. I just wanted to add something regarding the rent. We have to remember as well the deposit for the rent. Okay. So when you have a rent, you have to multiply by two. So you have to think about that.
The caution fee, yes.
Yes, I mean, it is obvious, but sometimes students don't think
Don't think
about it.
about it, yes.
Yes, so that's why I'm saying that. I have two questions for you
Mhm.
about the schools. Is it primary school, secondary school? How is it? I
Okay.
mean,
So
what can the candidate ask for? What can
the
they select?
candidate, when you're filling out your application form, you're given choices. So you can choose whether you'd like to be at a primary school or a secondary school or both, because some assistants are assigned to more than one school. So there's that possibility. You can choose what level you want to teach at. And the other possibility, you can choose what area of France you'd like to be placed at. Now, there's no guarantee. You're normally given three choices. So you have a first, a second, and a third choice. And usually they try to place you in one of those areas, but sometimes it's not possible. And usually in the interview, you're asked if you were placed somewhere other than what you requested, would you still be willing to go to France? And usually people are. But I think they do try as far as possible to place you in one of the three regions that you've requested.
That's good.
Mhm.
At this point, I just would like to mention Roman Wrights, who is one of us from Jamaica and is a YouTuber. And he has really has a blog in France because he lives in France. And for those who want to decide on a particular place in France, I would advise them to watch the videos, and maybe they can decide from that, from based on what they will see. I'm just going to share the a little thumbnail so that you can see. Maybe you know him. I don't know. Can you see this? Do you know him? So do you know him? Rona, you are muted.
I was asking if that was the Roma. Is that used?
Roman, sorry.
There was a Roma that used to be at the French embassy some years ago.
No, I don't think it's him. I don't think it's him.
Okay.
All right. So what I'm saying is that it's always good to do a bit of research about the place, but as you said, it's not guaranteed. But at least if you go for the place you want and hope for it, so because there's, I think, three choices. Okay, so you go for the one you really, really want to, the place you want to go, then you go to the one so, and then the one you're not too keen on, but at least they give you three choices. So I think that is good to consider. And another question, it's about, I'm trying to think of, I mean, I imagine that I'm a candidate, and I hear I'll be teaching English, and I would say, "Oh, but I've never taught English before. How am I going to manage?" What do you say to people like them? People who would say something like that to you?
Well, we have had cases like that, and we do want people to go and feel comfortable, to enjoy their experiences, and to actually know what they're doing. So before students set off to France, we usually have 3 or 4 sessions where we introduce them to assistants who are just coming back from France. That's one. Where we have invited guests like you were, who tell them about the possibility of doing the DELF exams, so that encourage them to improve not only their oral French but also their written French while they're there, and to take exams so that they will have international qualifications, so that no matter where they go, those will be recognized. So there's that as well. But we also have, and that next session is coming up for us, we have a session where former assistants are asked to give a demonstration of a class that they did in France that worked. And so students get a little idea of
What to do?
what they could do. But we also encourage them to take items from Jamaica, cultural items that they can use in their classes and build a lesson around. And the students are also reminded to take small souvenirs, because you're always going to find people who are very nice to you and whom you would like to give uh, a little memento from Jamaica or somewhere, and then you said, "Oh, if I had thought about it." So we always encourage students to do things like that. But there are lots of teaching websites. There's a person called Jenny who teaches French, and of course, certain things that you can see in the teaching of French, you can also apply to the teaching of English. But those sessions, especially since we have some some students who are from Shortwood, which is where they teach you to be a teacher. So those students are also very good resource persons for the others, maybe from UE, who may not have taught. But we find that a lot of our students have been involved in clubs and Sunday school and other settings where they have had to do some kind of teaching.
Okay. And is the teaching is from Monday to Friday in France?
Um, Mostly nowadays, I think it is, but there are instances where you might be asked to teach on a Saturday. And so that is, if you have the Thursday afternoon off, then you would have to teach half day on Saturday. So we always, during the interviews, point this out to students and ask them whether or not they would still be interested in the opportunity if they were asked to teach on a Saturday. And in most cases, they say yes, they would. And of course, we always have to remind students that discussions of religion are not entertained in France, so that's something that they have to stay away from as well.
Yeah, thank you. I'm just seeing somebody saying that he did the TAPIF program for 4 years. Tops are Coco, the name. Can you see this? And he says that he was never asked to teach on a Saturday. Thank you very much for that. That's very good. That's very good. We know that some did have to teach on a Saturday, but we never know beforehand. Marcia Bernard from Paris. Bonjour, bonjour. Okay, well, Rona, you have covered, I think, everything. If there's any question, I don't see any questions. I just have something to say to Tops at Coco. You did the TAPIF program 4 years ago or for 4 years? Because 4 years is a long time to do just the TAPIF program. I thought it was just 2 years. Well, you could renew another year. Can you do it from for 4 years, Rona?
Usually, depending on the quota that each country might have,
Ah,
you are allowed to do maybe 2 years. But I have had an instance where a
we
student,
can't hear you, Rona. Your mic can't hear you too
can
well.
you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Okay, sorry about that.
Mhm.
Yes, usually it's people can renew once or twice, but there are instances where the particular school that an assistant is at requests that person. And I've actually known of a person who went as an assistant, decided to do further studies, and actually did not want to teach in that particular year. And their school actually employed them privately, because
Oh,
apparently you can be recruited as an assistant on the ground as well. So I know
oh.
of that happening. So I don't know if that's the case of that Nazila had, because once you do your first application with us, any further renewals or extensions are done directly through France Education International. So they are the ones who would make the decision in that case.
Okay, so Tubsat Coco is saying for 4 consecutive years in 2 different rectories. Okay, so well, the thank you very much for this information. Yes, there is another question. I'm just going to put it on the screen. What if you have done the program before and are back home?
If you have done the program before and you've come back to Jamaica and you want to reapply, is that what you're asking? As long as you're under 35 years old, you can reapply, because we actually have a person who went to France, came back to Jamaica, went to Colombia, came back to Jamaica, went to France again, came back to Jamaica, went to
Wow.
Japan, and came back to Jamaica. So that person has really been integrating the languages into their whole professional life, and it was possible. Of course, as I said, if the positions were limited, we would give the
Mm,
new applicants the opportunity over somebody who has been twice
yeah.
already. But if we have sufficient posts to go around, then we would still allow the person the opportunity, as long as we're seeing where it is, it would be beneficial.
Okay. All right. So you
One
have
thing, sorry,
your
one thing I'd like
yeah,
to mention
sure,
though
sure.
is that your performance has a lot to do with it, because
You mean which
in your
performance
performance
in the country?
when you're in France,
Yeah, sure.
because
Mhm.
each school, each academy gives a report, sends a report at the end of the school year to France Education International. So if you come back to Jamaica and you reapply 2 years down the road, and they go back to their files and they find where there were problems at the school,
Something. Mhm.
then you're going to be turned down. So remember that you're an ambassador for your country, for yourself, for your school, and that doing a good job is just in your best interest, because
Mm,
I've seen people who wanted to go back and who have been refused like twice already.
okay.
So performance and punctuality,
Yes.
cooperation with the teacher that you're working with, and that kind of thing, and leaving the premises that you got to live in, especially if they belong to the school, but even if they don't, in the same condition that you got it in, or even better, returning the keys, not leaving
Yeah.
owing any rent. All of those things come back to haunt you
Yeah.
if you don't pay attention to that.
Hmm. Okay. Yes. So you hear? So you have to really, when you leave, when you go to France or the French Caribbean, you have to remember that you're representing the country. Okay, and you have to do the best. Okay, you have to behave the best way, and also remember that the way you're going to behave is going to determine whether or not they will write a nice reference for you. So that is very, very important. Yes, I agree with you. Yes, yeah.
And I've had a few students who have gone and come back showing not really much improvement, and who complained that when they went to France, people were happy for them to be there so they could practice their English. But remember that you didn't go through all the problems of applying for a visa, of getting that
For that.
1,500 euros together to go to France so that somebody can practice their English. That's what you're there for in the classroom. But remember that you're also there to improve your French and to learn more about France and the countries around France. So take advantage of the fact that you are there to do as much as you can, and you get as much out of the experience for yourself as well.
Rona, I can't remember if you mentioned it in the presentation, but how many hours per week would they be teaching English?
I think it's 10 hours.
10 hours.
Chrisan,
Okay.
can you confirm? 12.
12?
12.
12 hours. Okay. So it's 12 hours, which means that you have
Lots
ample
of time
time
to do other
to do a
things.
lot of stuff
As a
over there.
matter of fact, some students who have maybe have had one or two subjects outstanding, people who are at university during this COVID period when everything is online, have taken advantage and have actually gone to France and finished their degree while there, because they have
Okay.
enough time to do that. So that's something
Okay.
else that is good to know.
Okay, somebody is asking, Cora Reed is saying, I came on late. How do I go about applying? I think you mentioned all this in your presentation. So what I would say is when the live is over, you need to go back to the live and watch the presentation, because everything is there, even the deadline, the forms, all the papers you have to provide and so on. So you just need to watch the presentation. It was a beautiful presentation. Everything is there. And after the live, I'm going to put the links, some of the links that you had in your presentation. I'm going to put them in the description of the video. Okay, so all right. There's a question here. I'm just putting it on the screen. What if you are in a foreign country and won't return until February? Can I still apply?
Yes, we have
Because the
had
deadline is December, the 17th of December,
the
isn't it?
deadline is the 17th of December, but the application is online. So
True, true.
you could still apply. And as in the case of our students who are Bahamian, and who are obviously not in Jamaica, so we have had we did ask, even though we have the COVID pandemic, we did ask our Jamaican applicants to come in physically to the French embassy. But for our Bahamians, we usually do the application, the interview online, and that would be a possibility. So, but I must warn you that there have been students, Jamaican students, who have applied from France, and since it's a program de mobilité, they would not be applicable. So, if you're in France and applying from France, your application is not going to be accepted.
Okay. I see that Topsat Akoko is sending you a message, Rona. Rona, remind them about finding housing before coming through their school
Yes,
or
I
supervisor.
think I touched on that
Yes.
during the presentation. I said that once you receive your arrêté de nomination, you have a contact for a person that you will be interacting with when you get to France. So it would be good to get as much done with that person as possible. And usually, I was saying that usually that person might send you one or two or three possibilities. And nowadays you can do a virtual tour of a place, so you can actually see the places that are for rent and decide on whether you want them or not. And another very helpful thing is that we usually have a WhatsApp group with the set of students that are going to be leaving, and we also have students that are going to be extending their contracts, which means they were just in France a year before. And sometimes we have a few others who may be living in France. So very often a lot of the questions that students have can be answered right there in the WhatsApp group. They get a real sense of what is happening and how to. I've heard them discussing things like where to where's the best place for a bank account, and talking about
Mhm.
getting train tickets and bus tickets and all that. So that is one means through which we help them to get that kind of information firsthand.
Okay. Bonjour, Abina. I have a question from Abina Campbell. And it is best to apply when you finish university, right, Rona?
Yes, as I explained, it's usually best not to interrupt your studies and go, because what has been happening on the side of the university is that it depletes the number of students that you have in a class, which is bad for them. And also, some students, once they find themselves in France, decide that they want to stay. And then it takes a while before they come and actually complete their degree. So we usually recommend that you finish university first and then apply.
So are you saying that they have to graduate before? Because what I would say to my student is to apply during the final year, so that by the time uh,
Yes, that's what
they
I
have
mean.
to leave,
Right,
that's
that's
it.
what they do. So when they apply in October, they're in the first semester of their final year. So that
Yes.
by the time it's time for them to leave, they have completed their course of study. But this year, I've never had this request before, but this year we have some students who are going to France as usual for the 1st of October, and therefore they would have missed their graduation ceremony at UE. And they did
Ah.
ask, they wanted to get their graduation pictures taken, which I think is usually done in October. But we did ask for special permission, and there was a meeting that the head of exams had to go to and so on. And they, in fact, they have decided and they started doing graduation pictures from this month, September. So some of the students, even though they won't be able to attend their graduation, although they may be because it might be virtual this year, I don't know, but they actually have been able to start taking their graduation pictures. And some of them actually sent pictures to me.
Sorry. Sorry.
Hmm.
Yes.
Right.
Okay. Um, yes, there's another question. I mean, sorry, I didn't put it on silent. I'm just going to put the question. Let me put it. I can apply anytime. No, no, it wasn't that question. We've already answered that question. Um, I'm Jamaican and in Spain, so I wouldn't be able to come into the embassy until February. So what can you say?
Okay, so you're Jamaican and in Spain. So you could apply from Spain because once you're not in France, then you can still apply. But you said you're going to be coming to Jamaica in February because you have to apply for your visa from Jamaica. So as long as you're in Jamaica, once you have received your arrêté de nomination and you can go to apply for your visa in Jamaica, that should be okay. Ricky Ann. You're muted. Milen, you're muted.
Sorry. Yes, I was just saying coucou to Jamfet France, who is a YouTuber, but he's one of us as well, who lives in France. And I thank Rona that he went on the program as well, didn't he? Do you know? Jamfet? No, you're not sure? Okay, so he
Maybe I
will be
don't
able to
know.
tell
Maybe I
us.
don't know that person by that name.
Oh, well, you see, as the YouTubers, we change our names.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
Yes.
Oh yes, Edward. Yes, I do.
Yeah.
I do know that person
Yes, I know you do.
very well.
But
Welcome,
I said,
Edward.
all right. There's a question from Kevoy, a very, very interesting one, actually, regarding the vaccination. Would you need to be fully vaccinated to go on the program? Thank you for that question, because that was my next question to you.
Okay, so yes, very good question, and it was something that caused us quite a bit of concern this year because, of course, you know that people of your age were not being vaccinated earlier on this year, but luckily, they have been. So most of the students who are from Jamaica is in the orange category of countries. So yes, initially when it started out, they said that AstraZeneca outside of Europe, any AstraZeneca vaccine that was not manufactured in Europe was not going to be accepted in France. But about 2 weeks after that came out, something else came out that said it would. So so our students were relieved to hear about that. So they most of them have their first vaccination, but because of the date at which it was available to them, in order for them to get their second vaccination, they would arrive late in France because many of them have appointments for the 25th to the 29th of September. So we did go to the Aging and Wellness Center at UWI to find out if anything could be done. And they were saying no, they would have to wait the 8 weeks. So I sent an email to France Education International to explain the situation to them and to ask whether it would be acceptable for those assistants who wouldn't be able to get their second vaccination until the last week in September, to arrive a week or so, or well, 2 weeks late, because for you to be able to be fully protected, you have to wait 2 weeks. And with all these variants coming out, I didn't think it was wise for the students to be traveling unprotected anyway. So I sent that question, and I was informed that in fact I think other people had been asking that, and there was a meeting on Friday between France Education International and the different academy. So by Monday I should get a reply concerning that. But yes, you need to be vaccinated to get there. So the answer that I'm waiting for is whether they will, sanction our students coming 2 weeks late, because there was nothing they could do about the timing of the vaccination. So
Mm,
though, for next year, students won't have that problem because the vaccine is available now for all ages. But
mm,
this year it was something
yeah.
new, so they had a problem. But yes, you do have to be vaccinated.
Okay. Marcia Bernard, I'm going to put it. It's quite a lot to read, but can you add the Jamaican Diaspora en France Association to the WhatsApp group? You have a WhatsApp group? I don't know. Some assistants didn't know about this association until they have a problem. Then they are told to contact us. Ah, do you know anything about that, Rona?
Well, no, actually, we the first meeting that we had was with France Education International, and then at the second meeting that we had, Jam in France was present. So the students were told about the existence of Jam in France, and they I remember we started interacting with Edward when he was a member, and I think he still is, of Jam in France, no? But if you would like us to also tell them about your association, we could. But they did have a meeting where they were introduced to some members from Jam in France, so they actually do know that that exists. But the more support they can have while they're in France, the better.
The better, of
So
course.
we have, as I said at the beginning, we have one more session coming up where they're going to be doing demonstrations of teaching sessions. So if you would like us to invite you to that session, you can just send me an email, and then we will take it from there. Thank you.
Okay. So, Marcia, you got the message, and she said that it's located in Paris. Okay. All right. Bonjour, Neil. Okay. Another one who went to who took part in this program a while ago. Yes, Rona. O'Neill Madden. Okay. Thank you for joining us. So if you have no more questions, I don't know. I don't see any more questions. I think you've covered everything. There was a last question was about if you can work in more than one school. That was my last question.
Yes, very often, well, on the form you're asked if you mind being
Ah,
assigned to more than one.
okay.
And yes, it is possible to work in more than one school.
Okay.
And
All
one
right.
could be secondary and one could be primary. So, yes.
Okay. Well, thank you very, very, very much. Merci beaucoup, Rona.
You're
I
very
think
welcome,
that
and I hope we'll see the applications coming in October.
yes, I'm sure we will. I mean, there was some interest today, so that's very
And thank you
promising.
too. Thank you very much for the opportunity of having
Oh,
us
you're
here.
most welcome. I mean, of course, I'm the type of person who would definitely promote such a program because I know how beneficial it is. Because I took part in the similar program, but the other way, where I was in France and I had to become a French assistant in an English school. So I know exactly what it's like. Of course, it was a long time ago,
Same for me, but it's a real game changer. It's a
but
really,
yes,
really good
it's the same kind
experience.
of thing. So yes. So now we are going to talk to two people went who went onto the program. You know, they took part, and they did very well. They told me about their experience, and I thought, well, maybe it's the time to talk about it. So the first guest is going to be Russell, who went to Guadeloupe. And after that, we're going to have Chrisan, who actually went to Versailles, not too far from Paris. And they're going to tell us about their experience. So if you are going to France this year, so you need to make sure you're watching this, because it's going to be very interesting, I'm sure. Okay, so now I'm going to ask Russell to come onto the platform. Russell, are you there? Yes,
Hello.
Russell is here. Bonjour, Russell. Nice to see you.
Bonjour. Nice to see you as well. Thank you for having me today.
Yes, and well, Russell, I ask you to come because very often people want to go to mainland France, but you didn't. Okay.
Right.
Yes. So what I want to know is, why did you choose Guadeloupe? First of all, was it your first choice?
Well, yes, Guadeloupe was my first choice because I was interested in getting to know the rest of the Caribbean, the rest of the other islands in the Caribbean, because I was always interested in the other cultures of the Caribbean apart from my own. And also, what we could compare and contrast among all those cultures. That was always something that was interesting to me. In addition, I had met someone from Guadeloupe who was actually an exchange student while I was at UE. So she was right. She was in a Spanish class that I was in. Right. So she after developing, sort of a friendship with her, I think she was maybe the second reason that I was more motivated to go to Guadeloupe than, say, maybe Martinique or French Guiana, because I knew for sure that she had built up this expectation and she was so enthused about her own island, very passionate about it and about having other persons from the Caribbean come to discover her islands. Well, islands, because Guadeloupe is a group of islands. So definitely that contributed to my choice as well.
Okay. So how was it like going to Guadeloupe?
Well,
was it the first time you went to Guadeloupe, actually? That is something I need to ask you.
Okay, so yes, it was the first time I had been to Guadeloupe, actually. And the journey to get there was a bit tricky because there's a whole lot of connecting flights.
Oh, yeah, true.
Yeah, it's a bit unfortunate that we're in the Caribbean, but to get around in the Caribbean is a bit tricky. But I got there, thankfully. Didn't have to wait too long to actually get there. And it was, I'd say my first impressions were, just the roads, for example, they were smooth. The buildings were beautiful and big and modern. And that really was interesting to me because I felt as though I guess maybe feeling as though you're going to another island in the Caribbean, you expect to see a lot of similar things, which I did after a while. But just coming into the airport and going on the road, it was quite interesting to see that difference. But then, of course, as we went into the villages and the towns, the different areas that were away from the capital, everything was more reminiscent of, I'd say, Jamaica and other Caribbean countries. The architecture was beautiful as well, of course. I guess that is, that would have come from the French side of things. And
What exactly are you referring to?
in terms of like just the houses, les maisons créoles, I would say, just the,
Ah, okay,
they
okay.
were so beautiful and intricate in their designs. And I like architecture, so that's something that stood out for me. And of course, the people were quite nice. The food was similar and different at the same time because there are many influences of the Caribbean, a lot of seafood, a lot of spices, but then, of course, with a little French twist, so it was an overall
Spices, you're saying
experience.
spices? I think in Jamaica is spicy compared with Guadeloupe, I think.
True, true, but it wasn't hard to find my spices and to be able to recreate some of the Jamaican dishes that I'd have back home. Because believe it or not, there are a lot of dishes that are similar in Guadeloupe and also in Martinique. Like, what we call curry, they call colombo.
Colombo, yes.
Yeah, and I think that's basically their national dish. And there was, what was it called? Pois rouge et queue de porc, which is literally red beans and pig's tail, which we call stew peas.
Yes.
So the first day I saw that, I was so excited, like, wow, this is here as well,
Yeah.
And as you can tell, I'm a foodie, so that was something that was, really, it made me feel as if I were at home. And of course, the warmth and hospitality of the people definitely reminded me of Jamaican people. So I felt at home instantly.
Okay, so you didn't have to adapt to anything too much, I guess.
Not as much because I had so much help from the get go.
Okay. Now, what about your experience in the classroom?
So in
What
the
can you tell us
classroom,
about it?
there are very many interesting experiences. Some good, some bad, but I feel like
Ah,
that could be said about any context and any country. Children are children, adolescents, teens are teens. They're going to be the way they are. So there were some times where things didn't go as planned and so forth. But for the most part, I was able to establish a rapport with my students. They were, from the fact that, just from knowing that I was Jamaican, they were very excited. You
yeah,
know, they saw me
can
and they
imagine.
assumed, yeah, they assumed, maybe I'm American or Canadian or even from Africa, but they didn't expect Jamaica because I think maybe I was the second Jamaican assistant in a few years. And even
Okay.
then, the one before me, she was there a good amount of time before I was. So they wouldn't have probably been introduced to her. So, they'd come up to me and say, "Oh, Bob Marley, reggae music," and stuff like that.
That's always the thing they talk about, isn't
Right,
it? Yeah.
right. So it was fun to be able to just exchange cultural information and for them to realize that we are very similar to them, that Jamaicans and Guadeloupeans are similar in very many ways in terms of culture, music, and a lot of even language. Maybe the way that we say something in Jamaican patois is directly translatable to something that they would say in Guadeloupean Creole. I can't think of an example right now, but I know I had many situations where that was the case. So it
Mhm.
was quite an experience, enriching experience.
Okay. All right. What is your advice to those who want to apply but are a bit not sure, they are between, as we say, entre les deux, les eaux, they are between two.
Right.
They're not too sure. They're not too sure whether or not they should apply because let's face it, going abroad for nearly a year, it can be a bit.
Right.
So
Well,
what is your advice to those people?
I would say this: measure twice, cut once. So that's an expression that's used to basically say plan ahead and just have an idea of what it is you want to get out of the program and what are some potential obstacles that may come in your way and how you plan to tackle those, to jump over them, like hurdles, I guess.
Mhm.
So I won't say that everything is going to go great because my experience may not be your experience.
True.
But I think that planning and just being prepared for different situations, and having, a few backup plans is definitely the right way to go. We're in the time of COVID-19 where we have to be planning other things as well, so maybe as it relates to vaccination, where you're going to stay and being
Yeah.
able to interact with other persons, you need to think about that as well. Are you self-sufficient? Because maybe if there's another lockdown, would you be able to be by yourself for an extended period of time? And this is just for COVID. I mean, when
Yeah, sure.
hopefully we get out of this pandemic, those are the issues that we have to think about. But at present, it's something that you have to consider. But generally, if you want to develop personally, professionally, you'd like to develop your skills in the French language, meet new people, and just have a nice experience or just a new experience, I would recommend this program.
Okay, that's very good. Okay, so I'm going to see if there's any comment or any questions for Russell. Any? No, I don't see any. All right. I'm going to ask you to excuse me a minute because I think I have a problem with my phone. Okay, give me one little minute.
Okay. Should we continue talking or?
You can.
Okay. Well, Rona, is there anything you'd like to ask me?
Well, would you consider going back to France or going back to Martinique or Guadeloupe?
Definitely. I do want to in the near future when things aren't so complicated. Because, I did make friends in Guadeloupe and in Martinique because coming back to Jamaica, I had to go through Martinique. So it would be nice to visit those friends and see how they're doing. I do keep in contact with them, via phone and email and WhatsApp and all of that.
But as an assistant, I mean.
Oh, as an assistant.
And maybe since you're there, since Milen mentioned Jam in France, maybe you could talk about your interaction with them, especially during that COVID period.
Oh, right. So as Jenny had said, Jam in France, they're a very, very active group, very helpful group. Even Jam Fete, I'm not sure if they're affiliated, but the two organizations, they tried their best to help us, financially at times for those who needed it. And of course, in terms of morale, they were always there to provide, they organize a lot of activities that with Jamaicans, where Jamaicans who were in France or in French territories could interact. So definitely that was much appreciated. To answer the question about if I would go back, as a teacher, I think it would be interesting. I won't say no, but definitely it's a possibility in the future when things become less complicated, re-pandemic. And and maybe this time I would try to go to Martinique or maybe mainland France, who knows?
Okay, thank you very much. Well, I don't know. I switch off my phone, so I don't know why we get this echo. I have to say, we got the echo since you started, Russell. So I don't know if it comes through from you. I don't know. But anyway, no. Okay, so I'm not sure. But anyway, thank you very much. I know you told me that you are a busy man, so I'm not going to ask you to continue on the platform. But thank you very much for your testimonial.
Thank you for having me and have a lovely day. Bonne journée.
Okay, merci. Au revoir.
Au revoir.
Au revoir. Okay. So we have a question here. Is there a Jamaican community in Guadeloupe? He's gone now, so I'm not sure. He's back. He's back. Okay.
So I said goodbye prematurely. That's okay.
Is there a Jamaican community in Guadeloupe?
I would say that there are a handful of Jamaicans there
Really?
who, yes, I actually met one. I think she was the assistant who was at the school that I was working at, I was teaching at. At the time, she was there probably 5 or 6 years before me, and she contacted me. She knew about me being there before I even knew that she was in Guadeloupe or anything about her, but she knew somehow. I guess Jamaicans will find out things somehow.
The world is small.
Yes,
The world is small.
the world is small. So yes, there is one person I knew, and I think she knew maybe one or two other Jamaicans, but I wouldn't call it a community. I know that that person, she's very active in terms of, pan Caribbean and pan maybe African issues. She
Oh,
tries to get engaged in that sort of thing. But there is a big, big, big community of Dominicans from
yeah.
Dominica Island, the neighboring island Dominica, in Guadeloupe, and also in Martinique. Martinique is more so St. Lucians, a lot of St. Lucians in Martinique because it's closer to, I guess it's right
Mhm.
between Dominica and St. Lucia. There are a lot of Haitians in
Yes.
Guadeloupe,
Yes.
a lot of Haitians in Guadeloupe and in Martinique. And, I think for, a group of foreigners who have formed a community, they've done a lot of great things for themselves. They own businesses, they've accomplished a whole lot in Guadeloupe and Martinique. So I hope that answers your question in terms of community, Caribbean communities.
And then there was another question: how were the interactions with other teachers?
It was great for the most part. I mean, we had a lot of fun. We had a lot of discussions outside the class. They were so hospitable. They took me to restaurants. They took me around the island.
And you were
Um,
speaking which language?
they wanted to practice their English, of course, but I didn't I didn't let that stop me from practicing my French and Creole, which I eventually had to learn. So
Trust
definitely,
me, he speaks better than me.
that's not true. But yeah, they were really hospitable, really nice. I learned a lot from them as well in terms of classroom management and, just little techniques here and there. And of course, I dealt with maybe 11 teachers in all. So adapting to the different teaching
Mm.
styles and, discipline strategies was really tricky. But I can definitely say that it made me more adaptable as a person. So professionally and personally. But, definitely it was a good experience. There was never a dull moment with the teachers with whom I worked.
Très bien. So you got your answer, Boborig? Okay. Well, merci beaucoup, Russell. Thank you very much. I appreciate, especially on a Sunday where I'm sure you want to do something else than being on on
No, no,
StreamYard.
no, please. No problem whatsoever.
But
Thank you for having
thank
me.
you. I appreciate it. Thank you
All
very much.
right. Bye bye.
Au
Take care.
revoir.
Au revoir.
Au revoir. Okay, so now I'm going to introduce you to Chrisan. Chrisan went to France. She went to Versailles from January to May. So it was 2021. So it's really fresh in our mind. And I'm sure she's going to tell us a lot about it, especially because she went at a time when, COVID was a serious business. Okay, so I'm going to ask Chrisan to come. Is she there, Chrisan?
Yes.
Yes,
Hello.
she's there. Okay, très bien.
I am here.
Bonjour, Chrisan.
Bonjour, bonjour.
Okay, so Chrisan, I have my first question is why did you leave in January? Because normally you're supposed to leave in September or October. What happened?
Yeah, that's
You missed
actually a
the
very
boat.
that's actually a very good question. What happened is that because of the COVID-19 pandemic, of course, there were some delays in the issuance of the contracts, and mine was one of
Ah,
them that came very late. However, I was very fortunate. I was very fortunate to still be able to go because there was a deadline, I think, for the 15th of December, but I was blessed to be able to go in January. So, yeah, that's it.
Okay, so you went to Versailles. Was it the place you selected? Was it the academy you selected?
Yes, well, it was one of the three academies that I
Was it
selected.
was it the top one?
Yes, it was the number one for me.
Ah, so you got it. So
So
that's very good.
I got lucky.
Yes, that's very good. That's
Yes.
very good. So, what would you say? What you tell us about Versailles? Because when I hear Versailles, I'm thinking, oh, Versailles is near Paris. I would be very excited to go there.
Yes. So Versailles is like 30 minutes away from Paris. So actually, I didn't live exactly in Versailles, the community, but like maybe 15 minutes train ride away. And it's essential, I would say, an essential place, I mean, between to find Paris. So 30 minutes on the train and you're there. Um, Very beautiful place, I must say, because I visited. That's where you have a very great castle, and it's all decorated in gold. It's amazing.
Very nice, that
Yes,
palace. Yes,
and there's
yes.
also a very nice what they call etang. It's like how would you say, a pond that people go and sit when it's very nice and warm and sunny. People just go and sit and have picnic, and it's quite cool.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. So you went to Versailles. What age group did you teach there?
Okay, so I was at this school in Vésiné, and I taught at a high school, so from ages 11 to 15
Okay.
thereabouts. Yeah.
Okay.
Hmm.
And how was it? Oh, there's something I forgot to mention. It was your second time, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
And it could also be one of the reasons why you left so late, because maybe they were trying to give your place to somebody who probably later on didn't take it. I don't know,
Well,
but
I really don't think that is the case since I
no,
got
you don't take
accepted
it that.
from
Okay.
July.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
I was trying to figure out why, but
Yeah,
yeah,
there were
it's your
some
second
delays.
time. Yeah, but
Mhm.
sorry to ask about the first time, but where did you go the first time?
So I went to Lyon, which is like more
Oh,
the center
yeah.
of France, and that also was a good experience. It was quite different from the second one. It was more in the countryside, so in terms of transportation and so on, I can see the stark difference, but it was equally good.
Okay. All
Hmm.
right. So you taught those young people. How did they feel about having a Jamaican teaching them English?
Oh Lord, they were so excited. Um, just just knowing that you're from Jamaica give like makes them want to come and talk to you. You're in the corridors and they say, "Hello, Jamaica," and you can see the students, shushate,
Yeah.
whispering, and
Yeah.
you think,
Yeah.
she's from Jamaica or whatever they're saying in French, of course, more likely. But it's exciting, and what happened is that I brought along with me some souvenirs. So when I met the students in the first sessions, I actually asked questions about Jamaica. And if they got them correctly, then I actually gave them a souvenir. So it could be a handbag
Oh,
with
okay.
Jamaica.
That's nice.
Yes. And some of them got like little wallets, Jamaican wallets. So they were just really excited.
Oh, yes. And can you imagine having something from Jamaica?
Oh
They're going
yes.
to to show off a little bit. Yes, I can imagine. Okay. When you went there, it was, as I said, January, so we were right into the pandemic. Were your classes online or face to face?
Okay, that's actually a brilliant question. So when I went first, the classes were actually face to face. I must say though that when I arrived, I could not go to the school immediately because they said I needed to stay at least a week, without coming in.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
Yes,
because they
yes,
just want to ensure, that they have to
yes,
be free
yes,
of the
yes,
virus.
yes.
So yes, the classes were en présentiel. They were face to
Hmm.
face, and that's an
With a
interesting thing.
mask? With a mask?
Oh yes, everyone had to wear masks. All the
Okay.
teachers, everybody working at the school. It doesn't matter where you are. All persons had to wear masks. And in the front of the school, there is a big bottle of hand sanitizer that you just
Okay.
squeeze. And when you enter the premises, and for students, when they're entering the school compound, you have what we call the surveillant. We don't have the same system in Jamaica,
No.
but they're like persons who are in charge of discipline, and they are the ones to spray the hands of the students when before they enter the premises of the school to ensure to minimize chances of spreading the virus. Yes.
Hmm.
Mm.
Okay. And I understand as well that you had some classes online. Uh, at what point I mean, when did you know when you were going to go online or face to
Yes.
face? I'm just trying to figure out how it happened.
Right. Yes. So actually, I must insert here that when you're there during the pandemic, you have to be, I would say, accroché to the news. You have to be watching the news all the time because
To know what's
things
going
can
on.
change in a day, in a moment. So that was the case. The president at the time had announced that there would be a lockdown of Paris, and because Paris was one of the most affected regions with the COVID-19, they decided at that time to just lock down. And that's when we knew that we have to go online. And trust me, everything was not really in place for that transition, but we managed. We managed.
So you
Yeah.
didn't get the support of the teachers? Well, I
Well,
guess they were the same. They didn't know
they
more than you, I
also
guess.
yeah, some of them also were like, yeah, they're not sure, but everyone had an account, and I eventually got an account. So, but I basically teamed up with other teachers. I just joined their classes during that moment to support the students, to listen to what they're presenting, and maybe give my remarks and so on. So it was a bit different in terms of I wasn't with students by myself in those times. Yeah, so it was a
Okay.
bit different. Hmm.
Okay, I have a question about your level of French. Did you feel that you were speaking enough French to improve, or you felt that they were probably speaking too much of English to you, or how did you feel?
Are you referring to the
Especially with the classes online, because you didn't have much interaction then with the other teachers.
Hmm. So are you referring to my French
Now, did you
with
feel
the
that
other?
you spoke a lot? Yeah, because you remember you went the very first time and there was a
Mhm.
different interaction compared with the
Yes,
one now,
yes,
this year.
that's true.
Because it's a
But
pandemic and, you don't
yes,
see everybody. So I want to know how, what did
yeah,
you do to practice your French? Because that's the aim. That was the aim.
yes. Actually, that's a great question because, but for me, luckily, I had what we call flatmates, and one was French,
Oh,
the other
that's good.
was Brazilian, but he speaks very good French. So what that causes, we're able to practice. So that practice was not an issue at any
Oh,
point
okay.
for
All right.
me.
Oh, yeah. That
Um,
definitely, and I'm sure you know all the colloquial expressions and things like
yes,
that. I'm sure.
right. Yes, I learned
Okay.
so much, so much, so much, so much. Yes.
Mm. So, what is your advice to somebody who is interested but is between two minds as to whether or not should apply?
Well, um, I mean, this is like one of the greatest opportunities that you could ever have. Being in a country where you can practice your French, you can visit so many sites. The first time I went to France, that's when I got to visit other countries, Germany, Switzerland, and so on, Spain. So you can actually live the dream. And the good thing about it is that you have quite a lot of holidays. Yes, Yes, that's something that is quite interesting. Yes, you have holidays. So when you do have your breaks, you can take the train and go visit, even if it's for the day, and walk around, take your pictures, and go back home. And also, it's a good opportunity to meet people because people really love Jamaicans. You have a great chance already. So they might invite you even for Christmas, or they might invite you to go somewhere for the weekend. So there's so many opportunities galore for you to practice your French and for you to discover another country and even another region of the world.
Mhm.
Yes.
So, guys, if you're interested, you know what to do. You need to apply. I remind you that Rona is still there and she's waiting for your applications.
Yes.
So, don't delay. Okay, so any final advice from you, Chrisan?
Oh yes, yes. I actually wanted to share something with everybody. It's actually it's regarding um the you have to check out transportation in whatever region you're going. I think that's helpful to know, like, if there are some special offers for traveling for the month and so on, because that can help you to save. And also the school actually subsidizes those transportation costs. So once you print out your receipt and take it into the school, they actually will reimburse you in your pay. So that's something that you should take
And
note
that will
of.
be all the schools? Is it a government thing?
I
Or
believe
was it
so.
just the school where you were?
No, I believe it's all the schools.
Oh,
But
okay.
Miss Passard, you can, and actually, it's how they recompense you is based on the distance as well. So they look at the distance and so on, um, to see. Yes, so they normally pay half of it. So it's a French thing.
Okay. All
Hmm.
right.
Yes, and also,
Yeah,
I
sure.
really wanted to share the screen. I'm not sure.
Okay. So if you want to share the screen, go ahead.
Yes. Oh Lord. All right, so I'm gonna share quickly.
Yes, Danielle. Bonjour, Danielle. Yes, it's a government thing, as she said. Yes.
Yes, 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 yes. All right, so I had a few little pictures. This is La Défense. Some of you may know a very, very historic place in France. It's in Paris. Very nice. I just thought I would share. And this is also L'Arc de Triomphe. This is the second, how you call it? It's not the L'Arc. It's not L'Arc de Triomphe. It's actually the other. How would you say, perpendicular? um it's basically in the same line of Arc de Triomphe. So this is in La
Oh,
Défense,
okay.
and then Arc de
Mm-hmm.
Triomphe is like quite a distance away, but if you stay here you can see the Arc de Triomphe. So it's in
Okay.
the same
Mm-hmm.
line, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so yes, what I was mentioning earlier was the yes, find out if there are offers on travel and so on, because it will really reduce significantly. It can reduce significantly the amount you spend. And also, yes, so for example, in Paris region, you can get your carte Navigo, which is what I got. And I was able to travel in the different regions based on the plan that I took. And also, another tip is that you should learn alternatives to get to your place of work or home, just in case the regular route is blocked. And that was my experience this year. There were times that a train, would not be working, or there's an accident on the train line, and you just feel so stranded, and you say, how am I going to get to work? So it's good to know different ways of commuting. Um, and this app here, the City Mapper app, is really good to help you find alternatives and so on, different trains and buses that may go to the same direction. And it also gives you the timeline, so how many minutes, and it also lets you know when a train is coming, or and so on. So if you're in France or if you're going to France, this is a great app to download on your phone. Um, did I? Oh, yes, and
You
I'm
hear
also
that,
sharing.
guys? She's talking about an app, so make sure that your team, you're making notes.
Yes, right. And also, the final thing I think I want to share is finding apartments. I think this can be tricky sometimes, but I'm sharing some apps, some websites that you can go on. One of them is apartage.com. Another one is Le Bon Coin, Confrère.
Mm-hmm.
And you also have lock service Point Frere as well. When I say Point Frere, I'm just saying .fr really. Yes.
Yes,
So
if you can give me this, I can actually put them in the description of the video after the live, if you don't mind.
of course, sure. I want to point out, however, that apartage.com is actually if you're open to sharing space with other persons. As the name suggests, partager, which means to share. So if you're comfortable living with other people and you're not afraid, then this could be a great website for you to find a flat. Le Bon Coin, I believe you can find single flat as well as shared flats as well. And lock service, if you definitely just want to find an apartment for yourself and you're rich, this would be great. Yes. One more thing too, before I forget, it's you can check out foyers. That's like youth hostel. I think would be the translation. I stayed at a foyer when I was in Lyon, and that worked out well for me. I had my own space, but I had the opportunity to share with other people, um, because they organized different sessions and maybe eating at the restaurant together and so on. So it can be a very good experience if you don't want to feel alone. Yeah.
Okay, Chrisan, we are being told that we can only see the first slide.
Oh,
Did
really?
you? Yes. Did you move from the first slide or
Yes, I
because
did. I did move from the first slide. I did. So
okay,
let me.
Boboring is saying that we don't see the other slides. We still only see your first slide, which
Oh
was the
no.
same for me.
Okay, so I'll have to maybe just stop sharing and then start start again.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. So perhaps when you make it big, it doesn't allow you to share it.
No, it wasn't a problem because Rona did it that way, and she went through all the yes.
All
So
right. Yes. So were you able to see this?
okay, let me
This?
add it to the stream. Okay, it's in the stream now. Try to see if you can move your cursor. Oh
Yes.
yes, now we can see. I couldn't see
Okay.
that before.
All right. So when I
Yes.
make it small, it's
So can
okay.
you go back to the very first one so that we know what exactly we missed? Okay, so
Oh,
that was La Défense you were saying.
yes. Very beautiful buildings are there. A lot of commercial
Oh, I'm
activity.
sure. I'm sure.
Yes. It's really
And
cool to
then
see.
the second slide, it was a nice slide too. Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, this is what I was talking about.
Yeah.
It's the arch,
Mhm.
arch or arc.
L'arc. L'arche.
Yes,
L'arc,
the
I
arc.
think. Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
so it's perpendicular to the Arc de Triomphe, the
Mm-hmm.
Arc of
Mm-hmm.
Triumph, which is in
Mm-hmm.
central Paris.
Okay.
And then this is the city mapper application. I just share a screenshot that I took. Um, Basically, you can write the destination and basically put in where you want to go. You see how many minutes you have to walk, how many minutes it takes on the train, how many stops on the train, all of that information. You know.
And that is for any city in France, you think?
I think it will work in any city. Yeah.
Okay.
I think
Mind
so.
you, if it's online, I mean, it can be anywhere, I suppose.
I think it even works in England. So
Okay.
I think
Okay.
it's, yeah. And these were the websites I was sharing. A
Oh,
part
okay.
of it.
Yeah, we can see. We can see that.
Yeah,
Yes.
these are the websites I was sharing. And yes, I was I shared the Navigo card, how it looks like. And this is if you're in Paris, but other regions will have different names for their cards, the traveling
Mhm.
card. So just find out, ask questions when you go to the guichet, when you go to the how do you say the guichet again in English? And you
When you go to
The kiosk or the
over the
counter.
counter, the
over the
counter,
counter, right?
over
When
the
you go to the
counter.
right at the transport center,
You
yes.
see, guys, we didn't do the code switching, so we were so much into the language, we didn't even do that.
Yes, right. And I wrote a blog about my experience in during the pandemic, a short blog. So if you want, you can also check it out. I
So
have it
where
here.
is how do we okay, so you can it's a long thing, so you
Yes,
will
so
need to
I'll
give it
just
to me
share it with
and
you.
I will put it in the description again. Yes.
Definitely.
Yes. Yes. Very interesting. I like this idea of the city mapper. Very
Mhm.
okay. So Boberick said La Grande Arche. It's La Grande Arche.
La
It
Grande
tells
Arche.
you how
Yes,
long
sir.
ago I went to La Défense.
Thank you,
I went to
Bobori.
Paris in 2018, but it was for work, so I didn't have much time to do any
Visiting.
visiting or anything. I mean, I did visit after the training, but
Mm-hmm.
you don't have time to, yeah.
Yes. And before I forget, Jenny, there's one important thing. You mentioned it before, but being knowing about the associations that are in France is very important. It helped me a lot. JD, for example, is one association that I was connected to, and because of that, I was helped in many ways. Right when I actually arrived, so you have JD, you have Jamaica, Jam in France. There, there are persons there. We actually have a group of we share things together. So if you're going to France, we need you know we need you to reach out so that we can add you in the group, so in case you need help at any point we can advise you. And also you should register with the embassy of Belgium once you get to France. It's very good to do so.
Why do you need to do that?
All right, so the embassy of Jamaica in Belgium, they actually take care of all the persons in Europe. Well, there's some
Ah,
countries in Europe that they take off Jamaican nationals. So when you register
ah,
with them, in case of anything, for example, there's a bomb or something, God forbid, they're gonna reach out to you and say, "Okay, we realize that you live in Lyon and there was a bomb. Are you safe?" So on, you know. Or there are other forums that they might invite you to that may be of interest to you, and so on. So, and they were also very um, they played a critical role last academic year when persons were stuck in France because of the COVID-19 situation. So when we had assistants stuck, they worked along with Jam in France and so on and JDIV to get those persons back home. So it's very good to
hmm.
register with them, and it's very easy. It's just sending them an email and I can send you that email address so you can share.
Okay, very interesting. Yeah. Yeah, that I must say, I didn't know that information. So that's very good. At least you don't feel alone, especially
Yes,
during a pandemic. So that's very, very interesting. Thank you very much for that, Chrisan. Thank you.
you're
Thank
most
you.
welcome.
I'm just asking very quickly if there's any questions. Yes, the name of the app is City Mapper. Okay. And I don't see any other question. So that's it. Is Rona still with us?
Yes, I'm still here.
Okay, because
And
we don't see you anymore. So
yes, I'm still here. I came off camera when Chrisan was sharing. But
okay,
yes, I should
we can't
I
see
should
you.
okay. I should mention that assistants are usually, I'm glad Chrisan mentioned that, because assistants are usually encouraged to register with the embassy, and usually they don't until something happens.
Yeah.
And we usually also send a list, the list of assistants to, but we don't have their contact information necessarily, but we always send a list to the embassy to let them know who is there. But it's very, 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 as it came out during the COVID pandemic, it was through the efforts of the embassy in conjunction with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and several Jam in France, all the different groups, that we were able to get a charter to bring students home at the last year.
Mm. Well, I hope this will not happen. I hope that
I hope not.
things will get better. But I have to say, I congratulate all the candidates, those who applied and who were successful. And I wish you all the best for this year. I know some are going to leave probably next week, others by the end of the month. So yeah, I'm sure you must be excited. I would be, personally, I would be. And yes, I would say, Marcia Bernard said, excellent, Chrisan. Assistants must register with the embassy when they arrive in France. Very, very important, because we don't think about it, as you said, Rona, until something hits us, and we shouldn't have to do that. So Barbaric said the people you met in both locations. I'm not sure what the question. Do you understand the question, Chrisan? The people you met in both locations.
I'm not sure if I understand the
I
question.
don't understand the question personally, but Barbaric, can you rephrase your question for us, please? The people you met in both locations. I'm not sure which locations she's referring to.
Do you want to know if I'm still in contact with the people from both Lyon and those
Oh,
in Versailles?
just a minute. There's I think it's because the thing was cut. She said, "Is there a big difference between the people you met in both locations?" Sorry, Barbaric. It's just Marcia's message came between the two parts, so I couldn't understand. Okay, so I repeat the question: Is there a big difference between the people you met in both locations? I think she's probably referring to, um, because you went twice, right? In Lyon, and then you went to Versailles. I'm assuming is that.
Well, okay, now it's raining cats and dog where I'm at, so I hope you can hear me. But
Yes.
there, I can't say I have experienced a big difference. Maybe the people in, like, going to work, on their way to work, they're very busy and don't have any time for you in Paris. But that's actually, I guess, expected, seeing that everybody's just trying to catch their train and so on. But I found persons in Paris to be sweet as well and nice. I also, the ones I met in Lyon or Villefranche-sur-Saône were also exceptional. So I really, I have never thought about it really, but they were all nice based on my experience.
All right. She has another question.
Yes.
Were you able to visit any city despite the pandemic?
Oh yes. So
Where did you go? That's
well,
a good question,
actually,
Barbaric. Merci.
I went to Saint Louis. Uh, Saint Louis is like in the will it be the eastern side? Yes, the eastern side of France, and it shares border with
Near which?
Switzerland.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yes, it
Okay.
shares border with Switzerland. I went there, which is not far from Mulhouse and Strasbourg. So I went to those places when it was snowing. That was
Oh
interesting.
gosh.
No, it
Ew.
was actually pretty.
Cold.
So it wasn't too cold. I found maybe my coat was very warm, but it was actually interesting. And I also visited Zurich. I went to Switzerland as well at a point, and I went to Basel. It's also in Switzerland. So yes, so
So,
that's where I
so
went.
what you're basically telling us is that, despite the fact that it's not a lot of money that you get from being an assistant, you still have enough to travel, right?
Well, it can work. Yeah, yes, if you go maybe some months after, you just save up and take the train. They have some good. If you book your train with SNCF early enough, you can get some good deals. I paid like 60 euros to go to Zurich. Can you believe that?
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Yes.
Yes.
And she has another question for you. I mean, the one about Lyon, Versailles, you've already responded to that. If there's a big difference between the people you met, Lyon versus Versailles, you said there were not really many differences. Uh, the other question is, would you consider working again in France?
Wow. Well, that's a good question, and I'm gonna say yes. I would definitely consider it because France is a place that I really love. I enjoy. I think primarily because I love the language as well. I love the language, and I enjoy adventure, traveling, and meeting new people, and so on. So it's something that I would definitely consider. Yeah. Thanks for asking.
Thank you very much, Boborik, for your contribution. You've asked nice questions, good questions as well, some we didn't think about. So that's very good. So if you don't have anything to add, I'm just going to ask you to give your final word, and then we will just say goodbye to our audience. So who wants to start? Rona, you were the first one to start, so maybe you will be the first one to finish.
Okay, well, my final word would be to encourage everyone to who is thinking about it to apply. It's a really, really good opportunity, as Chrisan, Russell, and everybody else who has been will tell you. And if you open yourself up to the experiences, there's a lot to learn, and there's a right nowadays we have you have a lot wider support system, because as we mentioned before, you have Jam in France, you have the other association that I haven't had a lot to do with, but that
Yes, there
was
was one. I'm
mentioned.
going to put it back. I'm going through the
Jamaica Diaspora in France
yes, that's the
organization,
right. I'm trying
and
to
of
see. I know she
course,
put it somewhere, and
yes,
I can put it back. Yeah, that is the message that Mercia Bernard, um, Jamaican Diaspora en France Association. Okay, so it's GADDF. Yeah,
DIF,
DIF.
right,
DIF. Okay.
right.
Oh yeah, I for in France.
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, because I saw the on, so I was wondering. Okay.
Yes, it's just the style of the association. On. It's got a little French to it, I think.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah. That's very good. That's very good. Um, Thank you, Rona.
You're
Before I
welcome.
go on to you, Chrisan, I just would like to know if there's any body, I mean, those who were with us earlier on, if they're still with us. I just would like a little comment regarding the TAPIF program, because you went onto the TAPIF program. I know it was a long time ago, but is there anything you feel that you could tell, that you could share with us for the future candidates, like this year's candidates, because the deadline is on the 17th of December, right? So actually, we don't have a lot of time when you think about it. You know, we're in September, October, November. I mean, Boborig is asking you a question, Chrisan. Did you meet people from other Caribbean islands, Africa, Europe, etc.? Are they interested in Jamaica?
Oh, okay. So, did I meet people from other Caribbean islands? Yes, I did.
I'm sure you must have.
Of
You
course.
must have. There's so many of them. You must have.
Yes, but actually, I met less this trip. I met more in the last trip. Yes.
Yeah, but that's normal because with the pandemic, everybody's staying home,
Right, that's the thing. But I
So
met
that
persons
was,
from Guadeloupe and Martinique. Martinicans love Jamaica and they listen to dancehall. It's crazy. They know the songs more than we do, more than I do, and so on. So
and
yes,
I was told that they don't necessarily understand what they're what they
yeah, maybe they
actually
don't
singing.
understand.
Yeah, but
And I
they
did
do know
meet
the
people
words
from
though. Yes.
yes, they do. And I did meet people from Africa, of course. There are lots of Africans in France from all over. I met people from Nigeria, from from Cameroon, from Togo, from Gabon, Gabon, so many. Yes.
And she asked Europe.
And of course, yes, from other countries like Austria. There was an assistant who was from Austria teaching German. So I mean, I had very good relationship with her, Valerie, and also from Italy, um, who was teaching Italian. So they have other students from different countries that come to teach the other languages, just like English.
Yes, yes.
So that's quite interesting.
And her question was also, are they interested in Jamaica?
Oh, yes, they are. As a matter of fact, when I went first, I met a French. I met somebody who has Algerian roots and another French. And they actually came to Jamaica 3 weeks after I arrived, and they stayed with me for 3 weeks actually in Jamaica. So they are, and they always say, we want to come, we want to come. And I've met other friends who came afterwards, even last year. Yes, so they are interested. They want to know so much more. Yes.
Mm. So you see, Baba Rig, yes, you have the
I
answer to
want
your
to know if he
question.
would like to. Is he in Jamaica? Is this person in Jamaica, or would you like to come to Jamaica? Where is Bobo
Boboric, are
from?
you hearing the question? Where are you from at the moment? Are you in Jamaica or outside Jamaica? You want to go on the program or have been on the program?
Yes.
We'll have to wait a little bit because we
Yes.
are on StreamYard. We're not on YouTube. Therefore, it takes, some seconds
To reach.
before the person can actually hear what we've just said. Okay, and hopefully if the person is still there, he or she will be
Mhm.
able to respond.
Right.
So Boborig, we just wanted to know if you were from Jamaica or from elsewhere, or if you wanted to go on the program. But if you don't want to tell us, no problem, don't tell us. It's just out of your curiosity, really.
Right. Yes.
Okay, so whilst we're waiting for this, for his or her response, I'm going to ask Chrisan to say a
Give
few
my
words, the
yes.
final
My
words.
final words.
Yes.
If you are interested in this program, which I know some of my students who are viewing right now are, I would say use this opportunity now to work on your French. So if you know that your French is weak, try to get it up to at least a B2 level, which is the
You mean B1?
is it B is
B1,
B1? Oh,
B1.
sorry,
We don't need a
B1.
B2. B1.
Sorry, a B1 level, so that when you get to France or Guadeloupe or Martinique, you won't struggle too much. I can tell you stories of the first time I went and just setting up a bank account. Even though I had a B1 level at the time, I had some challenges. I ended up speaking Spanish and talk because I just couldn't understand the French at the time. So I said, "Do you speak Spanish? Do you speak English?" Nobody spoke English at that bank, so I ended up talking Spanish to one of the bank tellers who knows Portuguese, and that's an interesting story that I can tell another time. But we actually ended up understanding each other at the end of the day, and I was able to set up my account. So yes, that's just on a side.
Yeah, so Boboric now has answered. She said he or she, I am in France, but I would like to do the program, but I have just heard that I don't qualify. Okay.
Unfortunately, let me just address that. We had two students who applied from France last year, and their applications went through, and they were refused. And we were told by France Education International that if they are already on French soil, they can't apply from there. So if you come home and apply, if you're here, you can apply. But if you're in France,
Oh.
and that is what will be reflected in your application form, then it won't be possible. And in any case, you would have to get the visa as a foreigner. You would have to get the visa from here. But as I said, I'm not sure how it's done, but I know that there are some assistants who manage to make contact with schools themselves and who were allowed opportunities to work with the schools. So maybe you could, if you are still going to be in France, maybe you could try that option.
Okay, but the person said I am from actually a, I guess, high education from Africa. So we don't, I
Oh
mean, we
no,
know
if
if
yes,
it's
you would have to
Africa,
be Jamaican or in a Jamaican institution,
yeah.
educational
For
institution.
here, we're talking about the Caribbean. We can say the Caribbean and the United States, right?
But there are, if you go on the website, I don't know if I can share my page, but if you go on the website and go to services and then select assistance in France and then go to English speaking countries, they'll give you a list of countries that participate in the program. And there are some countries from Africa as well. So you might find
Because I know
that,
South Africa is one.
yes, yes. So you,
Yeah, I
you,
don't
yes,
know.
there are others. So
There's
you can,
others, but I know
yes.
for sure South Africa.
So just
Uh,
check the website and you might, but it might be the same thing that you can't apply from France. You might have
because
to,
yeah, the
right.
person is already in France. Yeah,
That's what
yeah,
I was
yeah.
told as last year.
So basically, you have to go back. And all right, interesting,
Mm.
especially during a pandemic. Okay, so Boboric, thank you very much for your contribution. That was very good, good questions. And as I said before, you asked questions which I didn't even think of. So that was very, very good. Also, a big thank you to both of you and Russell um, for accepting to be on the, on French Action. I think it's the first time you are on French Action and probably not the last time.
And thanks to you as well for having us.
Yes,
Thank
thank you
you.
very
Thank
much.
you.
It was a
Barbara
privilege to be
Rick
here.
has just said something. I had a look at the website, and even though I am English speaking African, my country doesn't qualify. So I have a double reason not to qualify. I might just make contact with school myself. Okay. Do you know any other program for a person in that situation, Rona? No?
Not offhand. Not
No.
offhand.
because it's possible that there's other possibilities, but
There might be other possibilities.
there might be other
Yes.
possibilities, but today we were just focusing on the TAPIF program, which is a particular one. But I wouldn't
But
be
the
surprised
Jamaican
that there's
diaspora
others.
in
Sorry,
France,
Rona?
I'm saying the Jamaican diaspora in France and Jam and the other associations might know.
Right, right.
They may
They might.
Okay,
know
so
others.
did you hear that, Boborick? You get in touch with the Jamaican associations and see if they know anything. Maybe they do because they're already on the ground, so they might have heard something going on. Because you see, what I find is that the important thing is really to be in the know.
Right.
Okay, because like the TAPIF program, some people never heard of it. And I know that Rona has been talking about this TAPIF program for years and years and years. At least, I mean, I know I was involved in it for at least 10 years, if not more. And some people tell you they never heard of it at all. So, so Ronald, where do you advertise? Where is it advertised? Why don't people
We
know
we
about the program?
usually we usually advertise on the French embassy website. I usually send
Okay.
the information to all the different institutions. So I send information to the people who teach the third years at UE, to Shortwood, to Michael, to Northern Caribbean University, to the Alliance. So those I usually go via
And
the
CMU,
institutions. And
Yes, and
CMU,
CME.
right? And CMU, right?
Caribbean Maritime University.
Right. So that's
Yes.
usually how the information is disseminated.
Okay. All right. So all the best, Boborick, and I hope you come up with something if that's what you want to do. But already you're in France, so you must be practicing your French in any case. So that's already good. But one thing I would say as well, Boborig, is that whilst being in France, try to get some qualification, B1, B2, something. Because what I find is that very often you have candidates or assistants who went to France for 1, 2 years. When they come back, you ask them about their French. They say, oh, yeah, it was good. Prove it. They can't prove it. They cannot prove it on their resume because they don't have the paper. And I do believe that it's important to have the paper because that's what is important in a resume or CV. So that is the thing, we don't think about it, but just saying you spent 1 or 2 years in France is not enough. What if you spend 2 years in France and you just spend most of the time speaking English? Your French cannot improve. And I know that because in Jamaica, I know some people who are foreigners, and after so many years in Jamaica, they still can't speak English. So what I'm saying is that you have to do something about it, whether it's taking some classes, all this, you have to do something, So that is a little bit I wanted to add because I find that very often people don't have the papers. Okay. So, Rona, merci beaucoup. Chrisan, merci beaucoup.
De rien.
And I didn't know how long it was going to take. It took longer than I thought, but I'm sorry about this, but I think it was very entertaining. As Boborig said, I did find it entertaining, even though I knew all the answers because I'm involved in the TAPIF program, so I know everything, but I still found it interesting. So I hope you did too. So as I said before, I wish all the best to those who are going to leave, and I encourage those who are between two minds to start
The application.
applying now, not
Now.
tomorrow, now, and make sure you also save your money, because you remember you have to live with, I can't remember, about over 1,000 euros,
500.
1,500 euros.
1,500 euros, which is still some money. So make sure you save all this little money. Okay, so I'm going to let you go, and au revoir. Au
Au
revoir.
revoir.
Thank you again.
Bye bye.
Au revoir.